So we absolutely have to go ahead and touch on Tesla stock as there was a lot that recently took place, but guess what? There's still a lot more to come as we have earnings right around the corner on October 23rd. And I want to go ahead and provide an updated view on where I think Tesla stock is headed moving forward. Now, for those of you guys that have been watching the channel previously, I shared back in August how the robo-taxi event was likely to be your classic buy the rumor, sell the news type of event, and for the most part it held true as we did see Tesla stock rise up, but we ended up seeing the selling pressure actually take place before the event, and I think this was because a lot of people knew this was likely to be a sell the news type of event. It doesn't take a lot of rocket science to know that a lot of the Tesla events end up being pretty disappointing, but the selling pressure didn't amplify until the actual event came out because, again, market participants, investors, were disappointed. And I know when I say the word disappointed, especially for the robo-taxi event, I get a lot of criticism because on one hand, you have a lot of individuals that say, but Justin, we had new vehicles unveiled. We had the Optimus out there serving mocktails. What more can you want? But the reality is, it was pretty disappointing, especially because what we saw were just prototypes, and we'll talk about it in a bit further, right? Real quick, I want to actually highlight what Wall Street Journal said because I think what they said sums it up very well. They said that the event was heavier on showbiz and lighter on business, and they also went on to say that pretty much the Tesla Cybercab, right? This was from the event. It was mentioned that it wouldn't go into production by 2027, and so what we had was just the unveiling of a prototype, which isn't going to even go into production for the next few years, which quite frankly isn't that exciting. But on top of that, we also got the vague news of when we're going to have, fully self-driving or autonomous vehicles actually roam. For example, Elon Musk said that unsupervised FSD or the unsupervised version would be released in California and Texas by next year. Now, that's pretty exciting, right? You'd say, well, that's great news. He said it's finally going to come by next year, but we also have to remember that Elon Musk has been saying for a decade that fully autonomous vehicles are coming. So was this deadline of next year for just California and Texas really a big, notable, eventful kind of piece of news to come out when he's been kind of wrong on things and over optimistic on Tesla's autonomy in the past multiple times? No, right? It's not that exciting. Now, also, I was excited to see Optimus and see the improvements, and once I ended up seeing the event, which by the way I live streamed and it was very, very just difficult to even watch, I mentioned how it looked like the Optimists were most likely just operated by humans, and we actually got confirmation for people who were actually at the event. They asked Optimus, here's the audio.
How's your night going, sir?
Good. I said, are you being remote controlled?
Today, I'm assisted by a human.
So right there, the people who were actually at the event showed this recording that Optimus was in fact assisted by a human. Right now, this was kind of expected. I know a lot of individuals believe that this was a time where we're going to have fully self-driving solved. We were going to get the, competition of Uber and Lyft destroyed. This was going to be the event and Optimus was going to go ahead and really shine. But it really did not take place as we saw Optimus just being spoken by someone, or actual human, and actually moved by someone. For example, this was not just one instance. It was another instant.
Got it.
Guys, I have a more important question.
Oh, what's the
Are you fully autonomous right now, or are you being controlled by a human?
I am not fully autonomous yet. I am operating under the assistance of a human right now.
And so we have this disappointment, right? Optimus being controlled by a human. Yes, the hands could move a lot better than what we've seen, but the progress has been very minuscule. And a lot of individuals were speculating that Optimus was going to be speaking through Grok AI, and it pretty much sounded like Optimus was just being spoken by someone with a speaker and a microphone somewhere else, right? And so, again, not great news. But guess what? We have earnings coming out. We're already past the event, right? I already mentioned that it was going to be disappointing, and it doesn't take rocket science to know that these events habitually tend to be disappointing for Tesla, but we're past that. We want to look for the future and what we expect the price action to do for their earnings. Now, one thing I want to mention, right, in regards to their earnings is that, for example, we have to look at the fundamental data, and we gotten some good news that deliveries in China have increased and they're actually hitting records, but at the same time, deliveries in Europe have been actually falling greater than what the improvements in China are. And so that is likely to cause the fundamentals for the earnings to not really be great news. And I expect that once the earnings come out, we're likely to see some more selling pressure for Tesla. And the next area I'm looking at, and this is from a technical perspective, is likely to see Tesla stock fall down to this moving average, the 200-day moving average, down to 200, right around this 200 area, which at the same time, not only does it fall down to this moving average over here, but it's also an area where we saw resistance in the past and support in the past, so that's likely to end up becoming another area of support. And as long as Tesla falls down to 200 and holds up there, well then I may actually add some more shares to my long-term portfolio. Yes, I still own shares of Tesla in my long-term portfolio. I'm not doing much with the long-term portfolio. I always specify that I have a short-term trading account and a long-term portfolio. And I didn't sell, after this event with Tesla. Yeah, it's falling down. But I'm looking to actually scoop some more shares if we hold up. Because the idea is that, yes, things are not great now for Tesla, but hopefully in the future, and now it's not even the long term, it's almost like the long term, that things will look great. And so I'm looking to see if Tesla holds up around this area of 200. Also, my discounted cash flow analysis, I have Tesla as its intrinsic value being around 160. And so $200 kind of puts it a little bit closer to what its intrinsic value is. But again, when you're doing these financial assumptions in these financial models, the assumptions, it could vary differently, right, from each person who does their analysis based on what they're inputting in their models. But I would like Tesla kind of around this $200 area holding up. And if it falls below, well, then we'll have to once again reevaluate. Now, I know a lot of times when I talk about Tesla stock falling down, it's not something that's very sexy to say. And I know there's a lot of other individuals out there in the YouTube space or even on X who are very bullish and optimistic on Tesla. And one example I've highlighted is this guy, Curious Peggy, right? He recently tweeted or posted on X saying that his Tesla stock price for 2030 is $1,500, which I think is a bit crazy to say still. And I actually responded saying, hey, is your 2024 price target still current? And then I highlighted this tweet that he made in 2023 of how his price target for 2024 was 350. Mind you, we're pretty much at the end of 2024, and Tesla never even crossed 300, right? So, let alone 350 is far away, which interestingly, I'm assuming that this guy, Curious Peggy, must like me very well, right? And I'm not picking on him, by the way. I'm just, trying to see what his point of view is, because I think there's a lot of information that you can get from listening to someone who disagrees with you. But it looks like he definitely may not be much of a fan of myself, as it looked like he responded to pretty much every other person who was verified on X, pretty much responding to all the comments except for my comment on, just kind of pointing out that he had this crazy price target of 350 for 2024, and here we are at the last stretch of 2024, and Tesla's at 200, and it never crossed 300. But, again, not trying to pick on him. I just think that a lot of these influencers or these, retail analysts for Tesla, they're oftentimes a little too optimistic with their numbers, which causes me to raise my eyebrows. And sometimes I question whether or not that's actually the numbers that they're seeing in their financial models, if they're doing, fundamental analysis, or what is causing them to have these crazy numbers. Or I often believe that they may just be doing it for the clicks, the likes, and the views, which wouldn't be surprising, right? Of course, if you're going to get a lot of traction to your videos by creating these outrageous numbers, well then all power to you. But I wish these guys were a bit more honest. And it kind of reminds me of Kathy Wood, right? You hear oftentimes Kathy Wood come out with crazy numbers for Tesla that never get hit. She was right back in 2020, but that was really the only big win that Kathy Wood has. And if we look at ARK Invest from the last 10 years, let's actually pull that up. ARK Invest. And we look at it. Let's actually clean the chart up. I hate to have all these indicators on. Let's go ahead and take everything out. We take a look at ARK Invest from like a 10-year perspective, and it's severely it's underperforming the S&P 500. You were better off just putting your money in the S&P 500 than holding into Kathy Wood's ETF. ARK Invest. Now, you did great in 2020 when Tesla rallied, but she's been wrong for a long time now, right? The last few years, 4 years, with these outrageous price predictions for Tesla. And I know maybe at the end of the day, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't get it. And maybe in the long term, Tesla will hit those price, points that a lot of these, analysts are saying. But for the most part, I think, the timing that they have is definitely wrong, right? Maybe Tesla will hit those price targets, right? I believe that Tesla's likely to hit 350 in the long term. But, the price targets that these people put, like, by the end of 2024, I think it's very unlikely, right? But going back to Tesla and looking at it from, just a technical perspective, right? Let's go ahead and pull back that, moving average. And again, I like to look at stocks from multiple different perspectives. I like to look at things from a macro perspective, technical perspective, and fundamental perspective. And although it's been disappointing for Tesla in 2024, I still think we have to, think that there was some success in 2024, as this was a year where interest rates were high, pretty much, to finance a vehicle. Yes, they're coming down now, but it takes time for the true effects to actually unfold into the markets. It's not like you just lower interest rates and things change right away, right? It takes time for the ramifications of monetary policy to update. And for the most part, Tesla has been holding up well. Now, going into the last earnings that Tesla had, right, we see that they're still a car company, right? And I know people like to say, well, they're a tech company, and I believe that they are, but for the most part, if you look at where they get their revenue from, it's mostly auto sales. You see total auto revenues greatly surpasses what they do from energy generation and storage, and then services and other. And so for the most part, at this current time, Tesla is still an auto company. They sell cars. And I believe that the next earnings report that we're going to see in October 23 is likely to be a disappointment. We're seeing kind of like what we saw in 2023 fall down in 2024 for the last quarterly report, and I think we're likely to get more disappointment, especially with what we're seeing in Europe. But if we're looking at Tesla from just an automotive company, I think 2025 is going to be a lot better for companies like Tesla, especially as we're going to be in this lower interest rate environment, as we're going to be seeing the Fed start to continue reducing rates. And I think that's going to be very beneficial for Tesla. I think car companies are going to be one of the best beneficiaries from this change in monetary policy. But ultimately, I still believe there's still more selling pressure for Tesla. And again, you don't have to agree with me. You guys, everyone is free to do whatever they see value in. You should never trade or buy based on what someone else's research is. You could just use whatever I say as just research to kind of add into your due diligence. But at the end of the day, I'm just someone else who's on YouTube talking about the market as well. Now, I do want to highlight that while I am kind of still bearish on Tesla and do expect it to fall down, I recently made a video on how I was bullish on the S&P 500, and I actually made that video before the market opened today. I made that video over the weekend, and we ended up seeing the S&P 500 once again hit new all-time highs, as I shared was likely to take place. And I shared how we had these breakouts for the S&P 500, especially the last three, where we saw this 7% move. Then the breakout afterwards was 15.48%. And then the breakout after was 7.79%. And when you add the three different percentage moves breakouts and then divide it by three, it came out to this percentage of 11.33%. Now, again, does the market have to move up 11.33%? Absolutely not, right? But I was just saying that historically, after the last previous price actions that or breakouts that we saw these big moves. And with everything taking place from a macroeconomic perspective, we're kind of positioned very well for the market to hit new all-time highs, which is why I'm not really focused on Tesla in my long-term portfolio. That's kind of one of the names that are underperforming. And, I may just add in more shares once it hits 200 and hold up. But I'm very bullish on a lot of other stocks in the market and just the overall market. For example, if we take a look at NVIDIA is actually breaking out, and it looks like it's poised to hit new all-time highs. And NVIDIA, if you guys are not familiar with the channel or part of the private group, this was one of the trade ideas I shared back in December 2023, was likely to be a huge breakout. And once it broke out, I mean, this thing just went parabolic. Right? And so that's why, although I do make a lot of videos covering Tesla, I'm not really that focused on Tesla right now. And I know that's a bit disappointing for a lot of the huge Tesla fans. But again, at the end of the day, you are free to, do whatever you please with your long-term portfolio or your short-term trading account. I'm just over here sharing my perspective. And I believe that we're likely to get a bit of a disappointment with the earnings, which is likely to cause Tesla stock to fall down. And if we hold up around 200, I may add into my long-term portfolio just to average it, right? Just to average Tesla, as it's going to be closer to my DCF model. But ultimately, I'm bullish on the long term despite, the bad news that we got from this recent event. I mean, if you guys watched my, this was, by the way, the recent video I talked about with the stock market and why it's likely to explode. Definitely recommend you guys check that out. But if you guys watched my live covering the event for Tesla, the robotaxi event, it was brutal. I mean, it was like 40 minutes late. I was just over here, everyone else just staring at the screen, listening to music. Although the music was great, it was pretty much a brutal event. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree? Do you guys believe that Tesla stock is going to continue falling down? Do you guys, think it's going to hold up around 200? Or are you guys more on the boat with, a lot of the other Tesla influencers out there like Curious Peggy, who believe, this still has room to go to 350? By the way, real quick, I think this was pretty interesting. He didn't respond to me in this comment, but he did make another post, and maybe it was him just not responding to me, but still responding, saying he still stands by this. That his price target for 2024 is 350. So I still, once again, I'm raising my eyebrow as that would be, from where we are currently. Let's actually look at what that move would be. Where we are currently to 350. Oh my goodness, I can't even fit this on the screen. To 350. That's I can't even fit that. That's over 70% within the last couple months or few months left in the year. Now, is it possible? Right? Nothing's impossible. Is it likely? Very unlikely. But who knows? Maybe Tesla has amazing earnings, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, and I'll look like a complete clown. Right? At the end of the day, again, you guys do whatever you see value in. And by the way, I'm not picking on him. By the way, there's many of these big Tesla influencers who, anytime anything happens with let's say SpaceX or maybe Elon Musk says a very vague comment, they say Tesla's going to go to the moon. And I just like to look at Tesla objectively. And I'm not a Tesla fan, really. I'm just someone who owns shares in Tesla. And so I think that's really the big difference. I hold shares in many other companies, right? And I'm not just trying to pick a cult. I'm really just looking at where to deploy some capital. But hopefully you guys got some value in today's video, and I'll see you guys on this next video right over here. Definitely check this one out where I break down why I believe the market's going to continue rallying, and I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care, guys.